Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
I have a very distinguished woman who is also very reticent about talking about herself, but I was excited to hear about Rosemary Nixon because she is the founder and the chair of the Encore Palm Beach County Board. And Encore, you know, the name itself, Encore, when you have a great performance, you stand up and you have an encore. But there are a lot of people who are very successful in their careers, and then there comes a time where either the companies they've been with don't want them anymore, or they've decided they wanted a change. And what do they do now? And I've read so many books about what do you do after you think you retire, and it's not much. But Rosemary was explaining this is a national organization, but she, with all her credentials, came to Boca Raton after coming from Boston and decided that she was going to develop the Encore here. So I'm going to let you listen to Rosemary talk about this. And Rosemary, why do you think Encore is so important?
Well, I have a personal belief that people are a tremendous resource over 50 that are not being tapped into enough in our society. I personally don't believe in retirement. I believe in continuing engagement in life, whether it's as a volunteer or a paid person, because that's how we meet new people, bring new things into our lives, and actually there's much resource to the effect that continuing social engagement in whatever form it takes contributes to healthy aging and longevity. When I was telling ANITA that I was at Ameriprise Financial for many years here in Boca Raton, helping people plan financially for retirement. And I saw that many of them didn't have any idea of what they were going to do at that retirement. And I was not in a position to advise or coach them on that. But I did read a book titled Encore by Mark Friedman, who is a social activist. And he said something I hadn't heard before, that I hadn't even thought about it. You know, you're so busy leading your life, you don't think about some things. But he said 10,000 people turn 65 every day in this country and will for years to come. And this is the largest, best educated, healthiest, experienced generation in our history, and has been given the gift of longevity, because a person retiring at 65 could live 30 years in retirement. And what are you going to do with all that time? Now, I have nothing against playing cards, playing golf, or tennis. I've done all that myself. But I am convinced that there are many people out there who need and want something more meaningful in their life. And I think we've read enough about the fact that purpose, a sense of purpose, is very important to our health and enjoyment of life.
You're so right. And I wrote a book in 1994 called Live to be 100 Plus. And I believed, I knew it would happen. At the time, people used to look at me with raised eyebrows. I made a lot of speeches all over about that, but it has come to pass. And I so believe, it's not that someone doesn't have to play tennis or golf or the other things they do, but to do that all day is very different. And I've met a lot of successful men especially successful men who have come down here, and within 3 years, they want to go back to work because they don't have any of the satisfaction. So your organization, and I want to know more about what does your organization actually do. If someone makes that phone call, and I'm going to give people a phone number to call, and then when you call, what happens? Okay, so the phone number to call is 561-706-5338. I'll repeat that. Remember, this is Pencil Talk Radio. You want to call this number if this appeals to you, and I'm sure it will. 561-706-5338. Okay, make believe I just made the call, Rosemary. What are you going to tell me?
Well, I would first try to find out what your particular interest and need is. Is it volunteer work? We meet a lot of people through our meetups, but a lot of people get referred to me, so I get those phone calls. And I've spent 40 plus years working with people to help them figure out what they want for themselves, whether it's financial planning or running a business and so forth. So I kind of try to figure out, are they looking for something to do to keep busy, or do they need or want to find work? Many people think sometimes that they want work because that's what they've always done. They don't realize that some of the benefits we got from work, whether it's status, management of time, social connections, can be gotten through volunteer work, plus which having that sense of making a contribution, which is important to a lot of people. So sometimes people realize, well, maybe I don't just need to go get a job. I could do some volunteer work. Because I've lived here for 25 years, I've been very active in the community. I have listings of nonprofits on our website. I tell people to go and explore all the opportunities we have listed on our website, plus the links we have to other volunteer job boards, and see if there's something that resonates with you. If not, we'll talk again, and I'll try and make the right match for you to a volunteer opportunity.
So
that's
talk.
one
That's
side
volunteer. Now I want to talk about someone who can't manage on their Social Security and they want a job.
What we found was, because our original focus was volunteerism, we found that a lot of people coming to our events or being referred to us were looking for work. And they range from the person who just needs a little part-time job to bring in a few extra dollars to supplement their fixed income sources, to those people who need a full-time job. And many of them, Anita, are in their 50s that come to us.
Really?
Their mid-50s, yes. They have been out of work for some time since the recession and have found it very hard to find work. I don't want to spend a lot of time on age discrimination. It's a real thing out there. People are frustrated with the online job boards. They never hear back from anybody. And they may even be new to Palm Beach County. Let's face it, there's 1.5 million people here. 50% of them are over 50, and many of them have come from someplace else. They don't have the connections. So that's when we decided to try and build up the resources on our website that we can connect people to.
Excuse me, let me ask you a question. Is there an Encore in Broward County?
No. There are only 2 Encore programs in Florida, one in Tampa and one here.
Good for you. So you really saw something that was needed.
Well, there are chapters of Encore. We're all independent around the country, Boston and Chicago and name it. But when I heard about Encore as a national movement, I said, we should have a branch of Encore here. After all, this is ground zero for retirement. Oh, yes, people go to Arizona and North Carolina, but this is where it's at,
Absolutely.
really.
Yes.
And so a lot of those people don't know how to make the connections to find work. And some of them have experience. They may even have a job, but they're not being paid enough to support themselves, and they need to move up to something else, and they don't know how to find it. It's not easy. Then there are the people, Anita, who work because that's who they are. I'm working with a gentleman right now who's just moved down from Virginia. They've settled in Boynton Beach, and he said, Rosemary, find me a job. I said, well, don't you want to relax? No, Rosemary, you don't understand. Work is who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And
I understand that.
Well, actually, work is who I am,
And
too.
I feel the same way.
You know, I find my identity through the things I do. Well, that's what this man is saying. On the other hand, Anita, I had a conversation 2 weeks ago with a man who was referred to me, a retired executive with the global operations of a major U.S. company. And he said, Rosemary, I don't need to work. I want a volunteer opportunity that uses what I know.
That's wonderful. But I want to jump back. So let's go back to the man that said, I need to work. How do you start to help him? Do you just give him lists, or do you sit with everybody who calls you, by the way?
I have been over the last 3 years, but I now have an assistant who
volunteer
assistant, like myself. We're all volunteers, Anita. She is retired from a personnel placement agency, so she knows
Fabulous.
how to talk with people. We tell people to do several things. First of all, some people are self-directed. If you point them in a few directions, they will follow and go forth and make those connections. So we've tried to have a personal connection to every one of the resources on our website. And so I will send their resume to that person at those resources and ask them to take the time to talk with this person. That person has to follow up with them. Sometimes people are really in the dark, and there's a place on our website where they can click and fill out a questionnaire, and one of our volunteers will reach out to them and start the process. So we have partnerships with Career Source, Jewish Family Services Career and Development Center, Dress for Success, any program we could,
Right.
staffing agencies, and we try and get them to connected to those.
My guest is Rosemary Nixon, and she is founder and chair of the Encore Palm Beach County. I want to give everyone, remember this is Pencil Talk Radio, so please do get a pencil, because I'm going to give you their website. So Rosemary's been talking about all the resources, and you'll find them on the website to start with anyway. encorepbc.com.
.org.
Oh, .org. You're right. I see the com on the bottom. Sorry, I missed it.
Encore PBC.
No, you're right.
We're a
Exactly.
501c3
Exactly.
nonprofit.
Yep. So it's Encore, encorepbc.org. And you will be talking, hopefully, to Rosemary Nixon or one of her volunteer assistants. But I think this is a great organization. I really didn't know very much about it. I figured the name meant something that was pretty important, and looked it up, and I see that if you want to be a volunteer, you can call. If you want to maybe find a job, you can call, or you can just go to their website and see what happens. But remember, Rosemary Nixon she's got lots of skills and lots of experience, and we're so glad that you were able to come here, Rosemary, and just briefly tell people. I think that this is going to make a difference, and I especially am so happy to have met you and to know all the resources and special events. So people will get on your website, I guess, or get... And
there
then,
are three ways to reach us. One is to go on the website. There's a contact page. You can send an email through that. You can also send us an email at encorepbc@gmail.com or call 561-706-5338.
Terrific, and thank you so much, Rosemary.